Liz McInnes.
Hear, hear.
Thank you, Mr Speaker, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to make a contribution to this very important debate. And it's been my privilege to be here for the whole debate and to hear many brilliant speeches, but particularly the amazing speech from my honourable friend, the member for Canterbury, whose courage in speaking about the domestic abuse and coercive control that she suffered will give others the hope and the courage that they need to speak up and get away. Also, to the Mother of the House for raising the issue of the S&M defence in relation to the terrible death of Natalie Connolly, which was also the subject of a powerful speech from the Honourable Member for Wyre Forest. And also my honourable friend, the member for Bradford West, who spoke courageously of her own family experience and the needs of BAME women under this bill. And in my remarks, I particularly want to raise the issue of the effect of domestic abuse upon children and upon their inclusion in the domestic abuse bill. So, under this bill, the definition of domestic abuse would not extend to relationships between persons under 16 years old. But this subject has been hotly debated, with the Children's Society arguing for a wider definition and suggesting that an age limit of 13 years would be more appropriate to include teenagers who are in relationships and experiencing violence or abuse, allowing for an early response to prevent abuse escalating. And this view was supported by the Office of the Children's Commissioner, but opposed by Action for Children, to ensure that abuse of under-16s is always regarded as child abuse. However, the NSPCC makes the point that child abuse can include the emotional impact of being exposed to harm as a result of witnessing abuse of one parent by another, and says that by failing to recognise children as victims in law, the government is missing a crucial chance to give young people an extra layer of protection. And at the Labour Party conference last week, I met with a representative from Barnardo's who was delighted that this bill would be discussed, and she welcomed the government's commitment to it. However, she talked with me about the impact of domestic abuse on the lives of vulnerable children. Living in an abusive household is hugely traumatic for children and can cause long-lasting emotional scars. And without the right support, children in this situation are at risk of becoming trapped in a lifelong cycle of violence. These children need access to vital services like counselling and mental health services so that they can recover from the harm they've suffered and work towards a positive future. Research demonstrates that specialist children's services do reduce the impact of domestic abuse and improve children's safety and health outcomes, which is why it is so concerning that dedicated support for children and young people is falling. The Joint Committee supported retaining the age limit of 16 because of concerns that the consequence of lowering it would be the criminalisation of under 16-year-old perpetrators. However, the Joint Committee did recommend that the Government conduct a specific review on how to address domestic abuse in relationships between under 16-year-olds, including age-appropriate consequences for perpetrators. And I hope to see the results of that review and that guidance colouring how we debate this bill. Women's Aid have just recently launched a website called Love Respect to support teenage girls at risk of relationship abuse and to challenge myths around the nature of coercive control. Teenage girls may not realise that they are experiencing relationship abuse, and they are less likely than older women to call a helpline. And research has found that 2/3 of teenage girls who had been in abusive relationships did not recognise this behaviour as such, highlighting the importance of educating young people on what healthy relationships should look like. Having a bad boyfriend should not be seen as an acceptable rite of teenage passage.
Absolutely right.
We need to get the impact of coercive and controlling behaviour into this bill, given that the bill will inform efforts to address domestic abuse and will guide the response of agencies and statutory services. It is vital that the needs and experiences of children are reflected on the face of the bill.
Thank you.